And the lawyers that Trump has used to argue his Mar-a-Lago excuse for keeping those documents was that the lawyers knew that when the FBI came the first time asking for the documents, that the lawyers knew that Trump was weaving and choosing what documents to keep, what documents to give to the FBI. And since the lawyers were in there with Trump the first time the FBI went to retrieve the documents, his personal lawyers were in there picking and choosing what documents classified to keep and what documents to give to the FBI, then the lawyers are guilty of being charged with obstruction. Thereby, the lawyers have to recuse themselves from defending Trump in Mar-a-Lago when the FBI came for the second time to seize those documents. Because the lawyers incriminated themselves into participating in obstructing the FBI when they came the first time asking for those documents. So if the lawyers were in there picking and choosing what boxes to give to the FBI, what boxes to hide from the FBI, because Trump was directing them to do it, his personal lawyers, then if the lawyers knowingly lied and signed the documents that to the FBI the first time they went and said that all the archives were turned over to them and there were no more classified documents or government documents, may I say, then they were lying because they seen that there were boxes of of documents that were classified government documents, or they were clearly marked with top secret markings or compartmentalized intelligence. So the lawyers were aiding and abetting Trump in a crime of obstructing, of giving the archives to the FBI that has to do with national security of the highest levels when it comes to nuclear weapons, how Russia and China hacked into our systems. And so because Trump wanted to hide his dirt or his Nixon documents, if you will, his archives of intel reports that he was keeping while he was vetting the Mueller report out, his impeachment with Ukraine. So, and his communication with his lawyers, Giuliani and Sidney Powell, while he was trying to subvert state elections in the swing states. So, by Trump trying to obstruct and hide these evidence from the government, from implicating him in crimes and abuse of public office, if Trump in the second Mar-a-Lago FBI visit was using his lawyers and their lawyers was knowingly picking and choosing what government documents to turn over and what government documents to hide from the FBI, when the FBI is trying to pursue all these leads and trying to deal with the ramifications of all these uh, evidence. So the lawyers knowingly were aiding and abetting an act of a crime by using their positions as personal lawyers to obstruct justice of an investigation. So, at the end of the day, Trump can't claim lawyer privilege, confidentiality to get those archives back. He has no ground to even insinuate to get those archives back. And his lawyers, uh, they have to recuse themselves and face uh, justice for obstructing. You gotta understand, Trump keeps on obstructing and obstructing investigations because he's so afraid of his shadows. He's so afraid of his shadows that he doesn't want the public to see the truth of his corruptions while he was in public office. He doesn't want to be outed for his criminalities. He wants to keep on thinking that he can accuse it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt, and use that as an excuse to hide all his misdealings while in public office. High crimes at the highest levels of public office, with business racketeering for the love of special interest fossil fuel deals that were between him and Carl and Rex Citizen. They were making the White House into a business racketeering endeavor, a get-rich Ponzi scheme for 4 years of them profiteering off of the Oval Office, covering up their ties with Russia, obstructing the Mueller report, using Giuliani to fire the Ukrainian ambassador for the interest of oil of Exxon, blackmailing Lisinski for quid pro quos, endangering the national security by mishandling classified evidence, documented archives that are still ongoing issues with the government as far as Russia and China implanting bots in American telecommunication grids and devices that allowed them to espionage hypersonic missile technologies, willy and dillying, letting these documents uh, just be cluttered like a hoarder, knowing that China or Russia can hack into Trump's H&R department, Human Resource Department, and make it implant in their computer systems like they hired a maid or a butler, because they can do that easily. I'm not saying they did it, but they're capable. They could be capable of hacking into Trump's Human Resource Department and implant an employee there, a new hire, if you will. So when they look at the computer, we're like, oh, we got a new person that was hired. Come in, come in, come in. It could be a maid sweeping his personal quarters. That's the detriment. That's why the FBI didn't want to. I'm not saying that they actually implanted a spy, but they're capable. Russia and China is capable of doing that. So you can see why the FBI and the government wants to secure these documents. They want to take it back out of Mar-a-Lago. For all the reasons, there's a high alert when it comes to retrieving these documents. And so, at the end of the day, if these Trump lawyers at Mar-a-Lago knew that they were picking and choosing what boxes to give and what boxes to hide, then Trump with the special master cannot use lawyer confidentiality arguments or presidential confidentiality arguments. He has no room to use those arguments, let alone use a special master. And then, and I feel like Trump should get depositioned by the FBI to find out where's the 42 folder documents that are missing. Because Trump is such an obstructionist that the FBI went once, twice, and now they need to go a third time to find out what is in those 42 empty folders that can jeopardize the national security of this country. And so I believe truly that Trump needs to be depositioned by the FBI and his lawyers that are defending him in Mar-a-Lago to hide these 42 empty folder document archives, because it jeopardizes the national security of this nation. And it also shows the implications of covering up his misdealings, misbehavior, abuse of public office, obstruction of justice, trying to interfere in a free and fair election. Everything into consideration, Trump needs to be depositioned by the FBI. And he can't claim, oh, I'm a president, I'm a former president, so you can't give me no deposition, because he just did a deposition in New York while he's trying to vet out the auditing of his financial records in the Southern District to cover up his networking, how these oil companies are laundering money into his real estate. So Trump can't use the excuse, I'm a former president, because Nixon couldn't use that excuse when he jumped into Navy One and waved, peace, I'm out. Because he knew he was a criminal of a president. And he knew that if he didn't, while he was president, step down, that the FBI would have put handcuffs on him bipartisanly. Because back then, politicians had moralities. Yes, Republicans, they had moralities to know that Nixon was guilty. And if he didn't step down, he would have got arrested. So don't give me the bull crap. Oh, we never treated the president this way. Because at the end of the day, back in the days when Nixon was caught red-handed doing a crime, the Republicans had decency to know that they had to force him out of power or arrest him out of the Oval Office. And so Nixon, when he realized he didn't have no other choice but to step down, he waved, peace, I'm out. But back then, the Republicans were Republicans. Now, they're a circus act of a clown show. Anyway, then what I assume is that the FBI now has to go a third time to find out what is in these 42 empty folders that could jeopardize this country against China, Russia, our national communication grids, our defense archives at the Pentagon. What else? These bots, these sleeper bots that are embedded in America telecommunications, in devices, in softwares, and computers, sleeping. They could be sleeping for years into they're activated to spy again on sensitive intel of this government. That's how these sleeper bots work. They could be sleeping for years, decades even, in software, in devices, communication, laptops, phones, computers, desktop computers. And when they're activated, that's when they start maliciously espionaging on behalf of these governments, foreign governments. That's why the FBI was so worried about the Russian bots. Because these bots can spy and be dormant for decades inside of devices. Whether they be laptops, computer desktops, supercomputers of companies, private sector companies, or military company supercomputers. And now that the CIA is depending on Amazon to have their clouds stored at Amazon supercomputer clouds, you start to see the detriment. So 42 folders that are missing, and Trump is acting with his lawyers like, hide these folders, hide these papers, because he's trying to hide his Nixon tapes, if you will. You never know how much of an obstructionist this guy can be. I never knew it, but he's proven me right. Anyway, getting back to the subject, is that now the FBI has the obligation to deposition Trump, to rein them in for a deposition to find out where is the contents of these 42 folders that are empty. And Trump cannot plead the fifth when it comes to national security of weapons of mass destruction. He cannot claim the fifth because it can be judged as treason and he can be tried for treason. So he has no room to plead the fifth when it comes to national security issues. So by him mishandling these documents, by him thinking, oh, I'm going to hide my corruption documents, reports, in my archives in Mar-a-Lago, oh, I'm going to obstruct the FBI from getting this. If he, by mishandling classified documents, puts this nation in peril when it comes to weapons of mass destruction, and he's lying to save his own ass from his business corruption while in public office, and for that reason he's bogging down the FBI with excuses while the FBI and the Homeland Security and the NSA is busy trying to secure our national security, and it leaves us vulnerable with our most sophisticated weapons. So at the end of the day, he can't claim the fifth when it comes to the national security of America defending themselves against adversary nations. Because by Trump being a klutz, a buffoon, a nincompoop, by hiding his dirty deeds while in the office, because he doesn't want to be charged with crimes of obstruction when it came to him and Carl Icahn embezzling the White House, when it came to him pressuring Lazinski, when it came to him Giuliani trying to subvert the election with Steve Bannon. Because of those reasons, Trump is hiding these archives. But these archives have to also do with other topics that have to do with national, to this day, national security. You got bots infested in America's telecommunication grids because of Russia. Sleeper cell bots that can be activated anytime, a year, 2 years, a decade, 2 decades. These bots can be reactivated. They could lie dormant, undetectable, because it blends into the language of software programming. So at the end of the day, Trump is endangering, because he wants to cover up his personal dirt of illegalities, he's also putting in danger the national security of this government. And so the FBI has enough necessity to deposition Trump. And when it comes to the issues of where are the archives of these 42 empty folders, he cannot hide behind presidential privilege or I plead the fifth. Because at the end of the day, he's not a president no more. And these issues have to do with immediate national security issues. And if Trump is just hiding these papers because he thinks one page in the report might implicate him with his abuse of public office, and for that reason he's hiding archives that can impede Homeland Security, FBI from defending us against our adversaries when it comes for them hacking into our systems and espionaging our highly classified weapons, and they're beating us to the finish line with it. So for that reason, he can't plead the fifth because it is considered treason after a certain point. You gotta know how to distinguish between, hey, you gotta say the truth, fess up to where these documents are, because Russia and China can hurt America. And if you're not willing to admit what these 42 empty document papers are at, and Russia and China, even North Korea can damage our national security issues, you see what I'm trying to get at? You can't say I plead the fifth, because after a while it's treason to keep on pleading the fifth.